Which Nightfarer do you believe is the best/easiest to solo Nightreign with? Well, now that I've beaten all 3 Everdark Sovereigns that have been released so far in solo with all 8 Nightfarers, I've got a solid grasp on how good and how easy or difficult each Nightfarer is to play in solo. And let's face it, matchmaking has never been the best, and sometimes you don't want to have to interact with a group, you just want to play single player, have a chill time, and grind some bosses on your own without having to worry about your team. So strap in as I take you through the tier list rankings of the best Nightfarers to play if you want to easily solo every boss in Nightreign. At the bottom, I begrudgingly put the Recluse in 8th place. Yes, I know, she is the most powerful class in the game, and I'm not denying that, but I'll go ahead and pause for a second whilst you leave your hate comments and your downvote. And now that all of the idiots have left, let's discuss why the most powerful class in the game is at the bottom of my tier list. There are 2 simple reasons: speed and survivability. Remember, we're talking about the class that's the easiest to solo the whole game with here. And the Recluse is not only the squishiest class, but also one of the most complex. In fact, she will easily be one-shot by any formidable foe, even at level 10. And the same goes for most Night Lord, which on its own isn't the end of the world. She still has by far the highest damage potential, with incredibly powerful intelligence and faith and mind stat. The problem is, she's quite slow in combat due to her weak dodge, and the most powerful magic cocktails and the most powerful spells require quite some time to charge up. Time which you do not have if you are all by yourself. Because enemies are super aggressive in Nightreign due to them being fine-tuned for trios, therefore it's very easy to find yourself in a sticky situation and backed into a corner trying to find your footing. The occasional time that she can get the jump on enemies and charge up her crazy powerful spells, leech some FP and ready a magic cocktail, and then rain hellfire down upon her foes, they are gonna get decimated. But when you are slow and squishy and all by yourself, them moments are few and far between, and usually the reality is you'll be spam dodging, trying to get some breathing room in whilst you ready a magic cocktail to replan your FP and figure out which spell is going to be quick enough to not leave you too vulnerable. Therefore, I apologise, Recluse, but you really aren't as viable as anyone else to solo Nightreign with. I'd like to thank the sponsor for today's video, Amazing CSUN Games, and let you know that Mecha BREAK is available to play for free right now on PC and Xbox, with more platforms coming soon. In case you missed me checking it out on stream during the open beta, Mecha BREAK is a third-person mech shooter that delivers high-octane, high-speed action across multiple game modes, including 6v6 hero shooter, 3v3 deathmatch, and mashmak, Mecha BREAK's unique take on the extraction genre. There are 13 distinct mechs to play at launch, with various archetypes such as Brawler, Sniper, and Support. And you can fully customize both your mech and pilot from the interactive space station hub with over 100 parts and paint options, before then diving into dynamic, large-scale battles. And as I say, Mecha BREAK is free to play out right now, so you can check it out using my link below. Oh, and also, if you did check it out during the previous open beta, there's been a ton of updates since that beta back in February, and it now offers an even deeper, even more refined experience than ever. So make sure you check it out using my link below, and keep your eyes peeled for more. Next up, in 7th place, we've got the Duchess. Fun fact, she is my main. I love her in trios. She is absolutely incredible, but in solo, she suffers from a similar survivability issue to the Recluse, due to her being just as squishy and having absolutely no defenses. Now, am I saying that you cannot solo Nightreign with these characters? No, of course not. It's possible to beat every boss with every Nightfarer. That's what I did. That's why I made this video. But the purpose is to give you a fair and accurate representation of the strongest and easiest class to solo the game with. But I digress. Back to the Duchess. Unless you can find some really good sorceries to make use of her intellect, then you're most likely going to be in the thick of it, trying to make use of her dagger spam, which is fantastic if you've got a guardian on the opposite side of the boss, so you can just continually pummel them status effects and building up and spamming restage. But when you're the focus of attention 100% of the time, it's surprisingly hard to capitalize on this. And more often than not, what will happen in reality is you're going to get 2 dagger hits in, quickly use your restage, and then GTFO with a few quick dodges before you're one-shot into oblivion. Because again, her ult is useless in most scenarios in solos. Doesn't matter how invisible you are, my friends. As soon as you hit an enemy, they will hit back. They know exactly where that attack's come from because it's only you. Next up, in 6th position, this is actually the first character that I soloed the Everdark Noster with. It is the Guardian. This guy is a very safe bet when it comes to most night bosses and night lords. His heavy guard stance is incredible, allowing you to save so much stamina and completely nullify almost every hit in the game. The only problem is the rest of the game outside of the night bosses and the night lords. His playstyle is incredibly slow, and it's hard to really make the most of his mechanics when Nightreign is all about speed. Gotta go fast. His strength stat is probably the highest in the game. I believe it's on par with the Raider, if not higher. But if that's how you want to play the Guardian, by just making the most of his big strength and bonking everything, then just play the Raider. His skills and abilities make much better use of this balls to the wall, smashing enemies in the face style of gameplay. The Guardian is much more reactionary. In fact, his entire class is so baked in team play. He's great at holding aggro by chipping away at groups with his AoE abilities, and his super awesome ult is one of only 2 in the game that can instantly bring everyone back from the dead, even at 3 maxed out purple bars. But unfortunately, these things aside, when you're talking about solo play, he pales in comparison to other similar-ish classes, such as the Wilder and more importantly the Raider, where he is just so easily outshined. And just barely rounding out the bottom half of the list, in 5th place is the Executor. We are now at the point where all 5 of the remaining characters are pretty damn great. It's just some are better than others. So let's now look at his strengths versus his weaknesses in solo play. Firstly, his cursed sword suffers from the same issues as the Guardian. It's too slow the majority of the time for a game where speed is so important. Also, you are relying on the AI to attack you rather than the other way round, and you're relying on parrying skills, which, yes, admittedly is pretty easy with the cursed sword. Its parry windows are very generous, but it's still leaning into that slow reactionary gameplay. And then his ult is surprisingly not that great in solos. It's just okay. Like, you won't need to use it against minor enemies because a few swings of your katana will do the job. And as soon as you are fighting enemies big enough and scary enough that you feel you should bring out the beast, they can actually stagger you out of it. And even worse than that, if they kill you in beast form, you don't revert back, you'll just die. So it's kind of risky. Now for the good. He is a katana master, with the right relics even further enhancing his already godlike master of all things katanas, dexterity, and arcane. You can stack status effects on enemies like they're going out of fashion. If you get the right combo of katanas, you can juggle poison, rot, frost, and bleed so quickly that the enemies will not know what to do. The only problem with this is you are somewhat relying on the luck of the drop. You don't want to have to be relying on RNGesus over your own skills, and if you don't happen to find any status effect, well, he's just as good as any other class with decent dexterity. Now, as we are getting into the top 4, sitting nicely in the bottom of the top half of the list is the Revenant. Though she suffers from the same squishiness as the Recluse, she has one huge advantage, in that she can raise multiple spirits to fight for her. And more often than not, enemies will target your spirits and your family first, giving you the much needed breathing room to charge up your slower but insanely powerful incantations due to having the highest faith in the game. Another way the Revenant really shines is by being surprisingly versatile. Though not many of her stats scale particularly high, realistically, exploiting a boss's weakness is still far more important than using the most efficient weapon type for your stat scaling. So remembering that you can be super flexible with the Revenant and using all available weapons and armaments, including great shields, is a really fantastic way to play her. With your family and other spirits popping up when you're fighting groups of enemies, she can tackle almost every situation with ease. Now, the reason that she's not higher on the list, don't get me wrong, she's amazing, but the only real negative is how weak her family start to feel towards the end of the game, and the fact that you can't use her passive in Night Lord fights because there aren't any ads. This makes her pretty challenging in solo, because even at level 15, your family don't get that strong, and they can easily be swatted away like they're nothing by the Night Lords. So unless you can nuke the bosses down before you've run out of family summons, it leaves you pretty defenseless. Now, as we move into the top 3, we have got the Iron Eye. It feels kind of crazy putting someone so squishy so high up, especially ranking him above the likes of the Executor and the Guardian, because he can be quite easily annihilated if you're not careful. But he has 2 huge advantages, meaning that this simply isn't usually a problem. Firstly, you are going to be shooting from very far away the majority of the time, especially if you can grab a projectile drop-off reduction talisman, always kiting your enemies, always backing away, keeping your distance, meaning it's much harder for them to reach you, and usually they're dead before they even get to you in the first place. But even when they do get close enough and they think they can, you'll then just dash through them and slice them with your dagger as you mark them. This way, they're still wildly swinging in the wrong direction, and by the time they've turned around to catch up with you again, your mark is once again off cooldown, and you can just rinse and repeat this process infinitely. Honestly, having iframes on your mark made Iron Eye go from 6th or 7th to nearly the top of this list. That one mechanic makes him so insanely powerful in solos. Don't forget, everything has significantly reduced health in solos, and because he has no downtime at all, he will just melt through anything as long as you are conscious about your positioning and you never stop firing. So if you never let that pressure off and you are breaking your marks consistently, getting the mini staggers in every few seconds, then pretty much nothing in the game is going to pose you any threat. And then, if you are in a tight spot, or you need to clear an area quickly for a few more levels, just whip out your ultimate art. What's not to love? He is an absolutely fantastic class to solo Nightreign with. And now, my friends, the moment you've all been waiting for. The top 2 were so insanely hard to separate. At this point, I feel like it's just going to be personal preference and who you play better. I would say that both the Wilder and the Raider are so consistent at being able to solo anything and everything. I personally have put Wilder at number 1, with the Raider coming in very close behind in 2nd position, purely because you can spam the Wilder's claw shot everywhere and whiz around the map lightning fast, all but guaranteeing level 15 in every single run. Also, the guaranteed stagger on 99% of bosses with his fully charged onslaught stake means you can bully the hell out of anything. Also, his strength and dexterity are both very high, making him super versatile with all weapons and truly making quality weapons like the already OP Bloodhound's Fang absolutely god tier. Now, let me just quickly touch on the arguments for potentially putting the Raider in first, because he is also incredible. To start off by looking at his stats, he has way more stamina, way more strength, and even more health. And then if you combine this raw power with his passive ability and character skill, making him take significantly reduced damage, you can go absolutely balls to the wall with your aggression and be insanely greedy compared to any other class. He's not as nimble as the Wilder and doesn't have as much mobility, and in my opinion, he has a tiny bit more reliance on drops than the Wilder due to him having lower dexterity and FP and int and faith, making him less versatile and a bit less flexible. And it's for that small difference alone that I gave the Wilder a tiny nudge ahead into first place. But honestly, if you'd really like to hone your skills and become a master of Nightreign, and to eventually get to the point where you can solo every boss with ease, start off with either the Wilder or the Raider to build up your confidence, get a few wins under your belt, and you should soon be soloing every boss with any class and having the time of your life. As always, my friends, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments, and all that's left for me to say is thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.